Today you'll see a shoulder jacket made out of purple linen that is perfect to wear on top of dresses. Super lovely top stitching, beautiful details, a pattern from each to stitch. Little sneak peek. Stay tuned. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I'm super happy to come to you today from Chile, from my parents' backyard. My mom's been making a very nice effort with her garden and I'm really excited. There's so many nice places to film here and I'm super happy to be here. Today is all about the Poas Jacket, which is a new pattern from each to stitch that I've been testing for the last couple of weeks. And when I saw the line art, I was super excited. It's a type of jacket that I love to sew that might be slightly easier to sew than your traditional denim jacket. And it is a different style also because it's slightly shorter, which makes it really adequate to wear on top of dresses. Sometimes I have a bit of a fuller skirt. So you can see in the line art here, all those pieces. I love the features of this jacket. It is for woven fabrics. You have front and back yoke pieces. And on the front, you have 3 pieces that compose this area. The double princess seams that you see there have their origin in the shoulder, but there is a yoke there, so the seams start over the bust right there. All the seams across the front are slightly curved and are so great for the opportunity to shape the bust size. So there are cup sizes here, A through double D, great shaping, great fit at the bust right there. There's a center front placket and you see that there's a rounded area around the neckline that is called a neckband that is in a double layer, and then you have buttons down the front. At the back, as you can see, there's also a yoke and some seams which also give you great shaping for your back. And then at the bottom of the jacket you see a waistband. The sleeve is a 2-piece sleeve, fits amazingly. It's meant to fit at the shoulder joint. There is a vent here, cuff and a button there at the bottom of the sleeve. Very classic features. You could make this and wear it for many years to come. I love pieces like this, and don't be scared of seeing plenty of seams. Remember, all these seams are a great chance for you to customize to fit your body much better. If you need to tweak little areas here and there, the more seams you have available to you make that much easier than when you just have a pattern that has like just side seams. Way harder to get a good fit there. So really nice, super excited to share mine with you. As you know, because the Poas Jacket is a brand new pattern, it is a pattern release. It is 20% off for the first week. So you can get the pattern for a little bit less when you get it during the release week. I'll leave you my affiliate link down below if you wish to use it. I make a little commission from there and that really supports the work that I do here on the channel. So I'm always really grateful if you use it. Thank you so much for all of you who do. It is designed for woven fabrics and I'm sure you have something suitable in your stash. You need something that's medium to heavy weight. If your machine isn't too powerful, I would stick to the medium weights because there are some areas where you will need to sew over a few layers. Just think back on the projects that you have done. If you've chosen a really heavyweight woven, how your machine has handled that. You can use anything that is structured, crisp, like cotton twill, denim, a heavier linen, broadcloth, corduroy. I think you could even use a nice wool if it's nice and structured. So lots of options there. I've chosen a linen. It's so beautiful. It's purple. It's a piece of purple linen that just keeps on giving. I bought about 5 meters. 5 meters is more than 5 yards. A couple of months ago, and I've already made the upland trousers from each to stitch with the same fabric. I won't wear them together because I'm not about the matchy life, but I still have enough for a pencil skirt and it's the perfect fabric for my weather. Very easy to work with, easy to cut, easy to sew, easy to press. Linen loves top stitching, so I felt really happy about my choice and really excited to have a purple jacket like this that I could just build more garments to go with it and have it be one of my basic staple pieces there. Other things you need are interfacing, of course. You will have pieces here that are interfaced and you need some buttons, some that go down the front and 2 for these areas. The original jacket will have 7 buttons, 5 down the front, 2 here. The size range is really fantastic, from 00 to 40 US. That goes up to a 62-inch hip in this specific style. In the size chart, you won't see the hips there because it's not a measurement of the body that's involved in the style. So you will see bust and waist measurements here on the size chart. There are amazing bust cup sizes as always. Each to stitch has them with the woven patterns from A through double D sewing bust cup size. Sizes 22 to 40 have B through double D, so they don't have the A cup option there. It is a semi-fitted style. You could wear a light layer underneath and you have about 4.5 inches of ease at the bust and the same at the waist. The jacket actually doesn't reach the waist. From what I can see and the shape of the pattern pieces and where the notches are, it's about 1.5 inches below the waist. That's where the jacket would sort of hit. There are detailed finished measurements from the nape to the hem at the back that you can check. I chose a C cup. This is a sewing bust cup size. It's not a bra cup size. It's got to do with the difference of the circumference between your upper bust and your full bust. Mine is 3 inches, and that makes me a C sewing cup size. And I've had success over and over and over for so many years already with each to stitch, and the C cup size fits me amazing. I'm always glad it's there. It makes a huge difference. I made a size 14 and I blended out to a 16 at the bottom of the pattern, just to account for the fact that I want my jacket to be slightly longer. I am a bit taller and I do need that extra length, not just because of my height but because of my proportions. I am tall, but my waist is actually quite up there in my length. So if I wear something that hits very close to my waist, I don't look proportioned. I look really short there if I'm wearing something solid, and then all the length at the bottom, it just doesn't look right for me. So I decided to add 1.5 inches to my jacket. You can see a diagram here all across where I added in 2 places. The line that's higher there that you see on the pattern pieces, that is the official lengthen and shorten line. I added 3/4 inch there, and then way below, just above the bottom of the pattern, I added my own line across all the pattern pieces, and I added 3/4 inch there. So 3/4 and 3/4 equals 1.5. That is the extra length that I added to mine. I think it's better if you're adding more than an inch to a garment to add it in different places. That way you can keep the shape of the pattern pieces more uniform, and it's easier to blend and not deform your pieces that much. My adjustments always include lengthening because that's what my body needs. For the 2-piece sleeve, I also added 1.5 inches, and I also divided that into 2 areas. In one I added 1 inch, and on another one I added 1/2 inch. And the other fitting adjustment I made, and it's something that I need to do all the time and I don't even give it a second thought, is to lower that bust point. So if you were sewing a style that just had a single dart on the side and you usually lower those, you wouldn't really have a second thought and you would lower it, right? But sometimes it happens that when you see princess seams, you don't think that you need to do that, and I think you do. If it's an adjustment that you typically make, you do need to check that, because these princess seams have a curve and a notch there that marks the fullest part. And if your bust is lower than that, you're going to end up with a jacket that's fitted at the bust where your bust is, because your bust is lower, and then you have a lot of excess here on the seams above on the upper chest. And I know I have to do that adjustment, so I just went ahead and did that on the pattern pieces before sewing my muslin. I do have a video that shows you how to adjust and lower the bust point on princess seams. I'll link that down below. In this case, because the front is composed of 3 pattern pieces, I did the same adjustment to the 3 pattern pieces. Easy adjustment to do. I made my muslin in crazy prints, really stiff fabric, really awful fabric actually, but it is suitable for the purpose of checking the fit, checking the adjustments I'd made. My muslin already had the length adjustments, already had the lowered bust. So I was just wanting to confirm that my adjustments were correct and that I could go ahead and cut my final pieces. The thing is to be sure that you're going to have a nice fit before you cut into precious fabric. My purple linen was extra precious. I haven't found any more again. When I bought this amount, I bought everything they had in that shop. There was nothing else left. And I do not want to go and ruin my garments because I didn't fit them correctly before. I just really value the fabric that I have, and I want it to fit the best it can. So I think muslins for jackets like this are totally worth it. While I was sewing this jacket, I filmed everything from the beginning to the very end for my Patreon supporters on the Orchid tier. So they have access to this content, all of it, but I do have a summary for you as well. I'm going to show you all the pattern pieces, some general aspects of construction, and I'm going to focus on that collar band. I'm showing the line out there. This area is rounded, you have rounded seams. I think this is the area of the garment that needs most dedication, that might probably take you the longest. I think it really deserves your time because it's a very visible area. It's not just straight seams. Yes, you see a lot of seams, but the other ones are very slightly curved and a lot of straight-ish seams. These are around the neckline, double layer. You'll find that it takes a little bit longer, so I'm going to show you the detail of that. So let's see. These are the pattern pieces that need to be interfaced. On the top there is the waistband. That is what goes at the bottom of the jacket. It's a really long piece. And I'm doing block fusing. I've already fused my fabric a little bit larger than what the pattern pieces are. This is the back neckband, 2 front neckbands. These are interfaced, but I'll also be cutting the same out of fabric that's not interfaced. This piece here is going to be the placket where the buttons are going to go. So I've just taken my time to interface the fabric first, and now I'm going to cut and mark all the little reference points. These are the main pattern pieces for the Poas jacket. Over on this side we have pieces for the back. The center back is cut on the fold there, and the side back is right there, and there's the back yoke. There is a back neckline that's not interfaced and one that's interfaced. The non-interfaced ones will be on the inside. These are all the pieces for the front. This interfaced one there that we see is going to be the placket. That's where the buttonholes and buttons are going to go. But the main front is composed of 3 pieces: a side front, an inset, and a center front. Everything has notches to help you match. There's no way you can get confused. I'll show you some notches in a second, but it's very easy to put all this together. The front yoke looks really little. Remember, there's going to be seam allowance there and there, so that piece is going to fit all these pieces there on the top. And here are the front neckbands. The interfaced ones will be on the outside, the non-interfaced ones will be inside, so there's 2 of each there. This piece here that you see all folded up is going to be the waistband that goes all along the bottom of the jacket. I've just got it folded there, it's all interfaced also. Here's a closer look at the back pieces. You can see there's a notch there and there's a notch there. Now this center front is wider on the top and narrower at the bottom. It could be easy to get confused, so I drew an arrow with my chalk while I had my pattern piece on there so I wouldn't get confused. Anyway, if you wanted to sew them wrong, the notches wouldn't match exactly. So just make sure you have the slightly wider part on the top, slightly narrower one here on the bottom. Here on the front you also see notches that are going to help you. On this front inset, the little tiny piece, you see double notches there that are going to match the side front. Single notch there, single notch there. This one's going to match that one's going to match this one, and then on your placket you also have a notch that's going to match this. Don't think it's wrong when you see that the placket looks longer here. Remember, there's going to be a yoke sewn onto there, and once the yoke is sewn, the length is going to be correct. If you look at this front yoke, you'll see several little marks right there. That's where all the seam allowances are going to be from all these pieces. So everything is very, very nicely done so that you don't have an issue putting all of this together. Poas jacket has a 2-piece sleeve. The smaller one is the undersleeve, the larger one is the upper sleeve. You are going to have a vent right there, a little opening, and these are the 2 cuff pieces. These are interfaced. There is a single notch to match this long seam. This seam here is the one sewn first, the vent is made, and then this seam unites with that one over there. On the curves there you have a double notch for the back, you have a notch over there to match the shoulders, and a single notch there to match the front armhole. These are the neckband pieces that will go on the outside, the ones that will be seen, and those are the ones that are interfaced. So that is the back, and these are the 2 front pieces, like that. So what we need to do is sew the shoulder seams. So I'm going to flip the back and then align these shoulder seams there, right sides together. And now we sew these using the same seam allowance we've been using, 1/2 inch. And same here, you need to move this piece over so that at 1/2 inch these are going to match. Okay, so we're going to sew these, and then the seam will be pressed towards the back and top stitched in the same way that we've been top stitching everything. This seam will actually be seen on the outside. This is not a facing. Because this seam will be seen on the outside, I'm going to top stitch it in the same way I was doing the others. So on the edge and then at 1/4 inch. Okay, so this is the interfaced neckband. Let's put it aside and put together the non-interfaced one. This is the second set, and this is the non-interfaced one. They are the same pattern pieces, and this is the one where we did the guide stitch and folded it into the wrong side like that. So again, I'm going to take this back piece and just flip it right sides up, and then align these 2 right sides together and do the same thing. And in this case, we don't need to top stitch this shoulder seam. This will be on the inside, and this one will be pressed towards the front. That means that the seam allowance. Okay, now I'm going to take this non-interfaced neckband and put it right sides up like this. This is the back and these are the two fronts. Seam allowance is to the front here, and I'm going to take my interfaced one and put it on top. They are the same, and now I'm going to align this inner curve here, right there. Make sure these seams match and sew it together with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so both layers are pinned, the interfaced and the non-interfaced one. The non-interfaced one is the one that has the raw edge folded in towards the wrong side. This one is raw. This one eventually is the one that's going to be sewn onto the jacket. 1/2 inch seam allowance. Be super careful. It is a little bit more difficult to keep the correct seam allowance on curved seams like this. I've got these pins matching these seams. I won't remove them. I'll just try to sew over it really carefully because I want these seams to match. I don't want that to move anywhere. This 1/2 inch seam allowance is a little bulky to leave in there, so I'm going to trim it down to about 3/8, maybe a little less than 3/8, a little more than 1/4 inch. Now we need to snip a lot, like really close together because this is super curved. So anywhere from 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch apart, just snip close to the seam allowance, not through it of course, all the way around this one, and then we can understitch. These seams match very nicely there. Okay, so when we open this, we need to push the seam allowance towards the non-interface, the one that has the fold. So if you're looking at it like this, you have the interfaced one on your right hand and the non-interfaced on your left. Seam allowance is towards the left because this is what's going to be inside. So I'll put my presser foot again to sew on the edge all around this. When understitching, I'm not going to understitch from the very edge. I'm going to start about 1/2 inch away because if I understitch all the way, it'll get in the way when we close this up later. So where I'm going to start, I am going to reinforce. I brought the jacket back. This is the back and this is right sides up. I have a mark there for the center back of the neckline here of the yoke. Here's the shoulder seam and here it goes off to the front. And now this is where we need to align our interfaced neckband to here, right sides together. So it's black, you can see it's interfaced. I've also made a little mark at the center back and this is going to match that mark right there. This is going to be a very curved seam right here, very curved. It could be easier to snip into the neckline here before aligning it, but it makes me a bit nervous to do that. I would rather pin it together and then see if there's too much tension and then I'll do the snips. So I'll give it a go at just aligning it just as it is, and then once I've got it all pinned, I'll do a few snips into that stay stitching but not through it. Remember we had done that stay stitching at the very beginning. So I need to make sure that this seam of the neckband matches the shoulder seam here. This has to be super accurate because it's going to be seen on the outside like this. So it has to be pretty seamless there. So it is really important that these seams match. And I'm matching it at the seam allowance. I'm not going to be removing that pin, as you know. I'm going to sew over it to make sure that really matches. Okay, so the shapes of these curves are totally opposing, but once you've pinned them together, this is how it's going to look on the right side, like this. These seams really have to match. I really hope I can match them, and if I'm off, I'm quite happy to unsew and try again so that it looks really nice. That has been pinned all the way. I haven't snipped into the yoke necklines so far. I will though after I've sewn the seams so that I can press this nicely up towards the neckband. One thing, on the front neckband, this needs to protrude 1/2 inch from the edge here of the center front, because at a later stage we're going to close this, so you need to have it protrude there and over here as well, 1/2 inch. Now this is the inside of the jacket. This seam is going to be pressed up like that. So I'll take my time and go to the iron and do that. But also what I'm going to do first is take this from the right side. This is the right side. Fold this. We have that fold and we have the fold that formed there when we sewed the seam. These folds need to meet right there. This is why we needed to leave seam allowance protruding, because now we need to close these center areas. That's why I didn't want to understitch all the way here. I wanted to leave it free. So now we sew flush against this end and close this little seam, and same as on this other side here. And this is the same concept that's going to happen later with the cuffs and with the waistband. Now we can trim some of this bulk away. I'm going to fold these this way towards the non-interface side, and we get a nice little corner here. So this is how this is going to look on the right side of the garment. And now this is going to come and meet this seam over here, similar to what we did with this. I'll also sew this little center front, have that ready, and then I can see a bit of hand basting in my future. Okay, I've just finished pressing the seam up towards the neckband, and now I'm just going to bring the non-interfaced one over like this to cover the seam. It's curved, but that's why we've done that memory crease before. This is where the understitching is to keep it all inside, and it's just a matter of neatening this up. I'm going to do the hand basting in the same way I did it over here on the center front placket, and then edge stitch. You can see that these seams match there. I'm very happy with that. And over here as well, they match very well. Okay, this is the right side. I pasted right in there while catching a tiny bit on the other side. This needs to be edge stitched everywhere. So I'm going to start around here on this edge, go all the way around, pivot there, pick up here and finish. That's how it looks like in the front on the right side of the garment, and on the back you can see I caught everything as well. Turned out super nicely. You can see that seam matches that seam, and this one is pretty seamless right there. So now I'm just going to remove the basting stitch. Here is my beautiful Poas jacket in purple. Look, every time I see it on camera in filming or photos, it looks a different tone. I think it can look really different with the type of light that it's exposed to. I see it here as a classic purple. I absolutely love it, and I've got it buttoned up here. Because I added length to my jacket in this area, I don't have 3 buttons down the placket, I have 4. I made all the calculations to make sure they were going to be at the same distance between each other. So the original marks on my placket pieces were not going to be working for me because I'd made length adjustments. So whenever you make length adjustments, just think about your buttons and buttonholes at the very end. You will need to change them. If you are not making length adjustments, then you can use the reference marks on the pattern, and then it's a little easier. So this is what I dedicated to show you the most, this rounded area. In the pattern it's called a neckband. It's rounded all along the front, rounded here on the back. It's very neat, top stitched. The layer that's visible on the outside is the interfaced one, and the one on the inside is not interfaced. So it's curved right here and curved there. So a lot of snipping, a lot of trimming, under stitching, just being really careful, and you can get a really nice result there. Then there's the placket and the front that's made out of 3 pieces. Center front, the inset, and the side front right there that attaches to the yoke. Lots of top stitching right there on both sides. That is the front, and then we attach the waistband onto the bottom. At the back we have the yoke piece, center back, side backs. The back pieces are easier to put together, of course. We don't have a bust on the back, so the shapes aren't that curved, although they do go in at the waist right there. So nice. Let me tell you how much Linen loves top stitching. I don't have like a proper top stitching thread in this color. I really wanted it to be the same color. I didn't want to have a contrast color because I wanted to keep this looking as formal as possible. The buttonhole on the neckband and on the waistband is horizontal, as you can see. My buttonhole, I measured it, was 1 inch. There's no way I could have made that be vertical, so on the pattern it is actually horizontal. But then you have this placket that is not wide enough for you to be able to do your buttonhole horizontally very well either, so the buttonholes on the placket are vertical. It is part of the instructions. You will see it like that in the instructions. It's not that I made it up, but it makes total sense. Inside it's all very neat. I have purple serger thread. All the seams have been pressed and top stitched flat. Fake flat felled seams, of course. I'm not going to do the real ones. There is a fake chest flap pocket that you can put there with a button if you want to do that. It's not a real pocket. I didn't want to do that because I just didn't. It is optional. And here we have the sleeve with the seam at the back that's also top stitched that goes into the vent. The top stitching on this seam looks pretty seamless between here and the vent in the way that I've sewn it. And then we have the cuff and the button right there. If you saw how to finish this center area of the neckband right there, it is the same technique that you finish these little areas of the cuff and the center here of the waistband. I hand basted the same way, I've sewn it in the same way, it's just that this was curved and these here are rectangles. So nice there, you know, if it gets hot you can fold it up and then you can have a more casual look. This is definitely an area that needs a bit of dedication, a bit of time for it to turn out nicely. I opted not to top stitch around the armhole. I view that as optional. I hope it is because I just like leaving my sleeves just like that. I think they look a little bit more formal that way. The yokes inside are in a single layer. So super excited to share this. I've paired it with a dress I made from the Itch to Stitch So Beautiful book. The Mornington dress I made a couple of years, about 2 years ago. The purple matches perfect, so let's see it on outside. This is my new Poas jacket from Itch to Stitch in size 14 to 16 with a C-cup. Gorgeous purple linen. I absolutely love it. You can see it buttoned up over my Mornington dress, also from Itch to Stitch. I have added 1.5 inches of length to the body of the jacket. You can see a closer look there. This is an adjustment that's adequate for my height and my proportions. Because I added the length, I have an extra button too on the center front placket. I can wear it unbuttoned or buttoned. Here you see a back view with the seams on the back. Great shaping, great fit. Inside it's all very neat, all serged, fake flat felled seams. The sleeves are 2-piece. They do have a vent at the bottom with a cuff. You can wear it buttoned or unbuttoned. You can fold it up, make it look a bit more casual. If it's hot also, always enjoy that technique. Super versatile style that you could style so many ways. Here you can see the top of the jacket where the neckband is curved. Really fun technique. There's 2 layers there. It looks really clean. The shoulder fit is super correct for me. The back has 2-piece sleeves. You can see that seam is top stitched. The back yoke is in a single layer. Everything's top stitched as well. You can see the top part of my jacket from the back. The neckline is perfect. It's not low, it's not high, it's just right. I love this jacket so much. The fit, the style. I love the purple. I can't tell you how much I love the purple linen. It is the perfect fabric for me, for my style, for my weather. It's easy to work with. Love the shape of all these seams. Just an amazing project that I am super happy to have tested. Great pattern. So happy. I absolutely love it. Don't think the pattern is too hard. Sometimes when you see line art with lots of seams and lots of top stitching, you think it's harder than it really is. It really isn't. The instructions are amazing. You know, every single step has a diagram. It's really easy to follow. The wording, the language that you see there tells you exactly what to do, exactly what way the seams are pressed. It's just really easy to follow. Poas jacket has the right purple tone that matches the colors and the style of my new knit Celeste dress I made the other day. It's also a pattern from Itch to Stitch. Perfect. This dress doesn't have a really full skirt or a tight skirt, and I think the length of the jacket matches the style perfectly. I have it styled with purple boots. I feel great in this outfit. I love all the colors here. I feel great. These are my colors. love it. It's so nice and so neat inside. It was a real pleasure to sew. Yeah, a real pleasure. What can I say? I was smiling the whole time. It was a project I really enjoyed. My Poas jacket also matches the dark pink tones from the tropical print of my new Talon dress in ITY. Also from Itch to Stitch that I made the other day. It's a perfect style for it. The skirt is a little bit fuller in this dress, and because the jacket is shorter, it's perfect. I'm really excited about this jacket and really happy to find more fabrics to build around this beautiful piece so that it can go with many more things in my wardrobe, although it already goes with a lot of things in my wardrobe. I encourage you to give it a go. It's a style that you're really going to wear a lot. It can look really different in different styles of fabrics. I'm really excited to try this in a wool. What I would do is just interface all the pieces if I felt that the fabric wasn't structured enough. That's how I would go around that. But I'm really excited to try this again when I have more time. I really had ambitious plans to make another one in denim, but my trip to Chile was coming up and I just could not find the time. I would have had to stop sleeping, which I already was doing a few days before my trip. Don't forget that the Poas jacket is 20% off for the first week during the release. My affiliate link is always down below if you want to use that. I make a small commission and it doesn't really cost you anything extra. You will see me a lot this week. You have many videos coming during the next couple of days, so expect my face to pop up from my parents' backyard. I can't wait to show you more. So beautiful here, right? Have a great day and happy sewing. Bye.